We need to do a welfare check on him, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Well, take it away, John. I mean, Eric. I'm looking at
All right, then.
John here.
Good morning, everybody. An extra earlier morning for some of our participants. Today we're going to go over some of the work Mike and I have done on updating the goal tree to. We updated the goal tree to align with the draft business process model that we've been working on. And then I think Josh could give us a little update. They had a modeling meeting since the last meeting, and then we thought Cello could walk through his work with the assessment that he's been working on that we discussed a little bit last meeting. So I'll go ahead and share my screen. So this is the goal tree that kind of started things off with my better understanding of my energy program and what I'm trying to accomplish. Mike and I worked on this, and we were looking at it from top down. It starts with the organizational goal, right? So at GLWA, our goal is reliable water and wastewater service to our customers. With responsible energy usage is maintained. And so really the role of the energy management program within the overarching GLWA goal is to responsibly use energy so that we're doing right by our ratepayers. And then the goals supporting that overarching organizational goals are related to the energy program, where we have cost targets. So we have our energy cost targets are met, reliable service to the customer is provided, energy efficiency is improved, and then supporting goals underneath that. And we had KPIs. We identified some KPIs for each of these goals. And at the time, we highlighted in yellow some of the activities we thought that could be rolled into one business process model. So this is where we started, and this was something that I think was developed maybe 5 months ago now, 5 or 6 months ago. And from that, we worked into through several people's efforts, a high-level energy management business process model. And we have a leadership swim lane, and then the energy management swim lane, and then a supporting organization swim lane that involves engineering, maintenance and operations, support services. So within this, we've been working towards and trying to prod people into building out some of the sub-processes that might could be detailed within the model. But the leadership has to give us our mission and directives, the energy team defining organizational context, and from there reviewing performance, identifying improvements, setting targets. Those actions require some support and work with the support teams for standardizing our energy actions, and then implementing corrective actions as we see things fall out of performance expectations. And it all circles back. We have a monthly and annual processes for measuring and analyzing our performance, and then on an annual basis, conducting our energy management system audit. How is the system itself working? And rolls around where on a yearly basis, you'd come back to the leadership review and that leadership commitment. One thing that happens with the business process model is it doesn't really identify the goals of the business process. It just identifies how to achieve the program, but not really the underlying goals, what we're trying to achieve. So what Mike and I have been working on is taking this BPMN and turning it to a goal tree that's aligned with those swim lanes. So we maintained the colors of leadership, energy team in blue, and then that supporting services of engineering and operations in the green. And so we're still at a high level goal is for the reliable service to our customers, where we're maintaining responsible energy usage. And from here, you have the executive team. Their goal is to perform this annual assessment, this performance assessment, and there's decisions that need to be done to support that goal. So so these things directly relate to the business process model. So the vision and mission are refreshed, leadership commitment obtained, performance review completed. These are like decision points in support of the goal at this level. These are required for the sub goals. So we need to have this leadership commitment in order for the energy team to meet, establish their main goal of being energy efficient and improving energy efficiency. And the decision points supporting that, defining the organizational context. So then we have the supporting goals to improve energy efficiency. We have the energy efficiency improvement, where we have to look at our current performance, identify improvements, which is that's a huge decision point, and set targets. All of those feeding into this goal of improving efficiency, and we need the buy-in. We need the buy-in and support from that support staff, where their goal is to manage their operations, overarching goal. That's the operational team's goal, but they're also supporting meeting our targets, and they have the decision point for the operational management for preventative actions being implemented, maintenance, and improvements implemented to support the maintenance. And then lower down, energy team have that I identified in that first goal tree, energy costs and targets are met, and reliable service to customers provided. So here we have audits being conducted for the reliable service, and usage measured and analyzed for the cost target side of things. So this was a kind of a first pass of taking that step from the business process model to a refined goal tree that has those roles in there, and supports the business process. So with that said, is anybody have any thoughts around this? Any feedback? Anything that you think stands out or could have a little further conversation?
It looks really good. It's really good progress, guys. So yeah, I think it's good to start developing these connections. I see Josh has his hand up.
Yep.
Yeah, and we're gonna show you what Portland BES did in our workshop. We had our workshop yesterday, which was a very preliminary kind of look at our energy efficiency program process. This, when you showed the goal tree before, and then the way that my brain works is I try to turn it into something familiar in my head. And what came into my head was It's basically the skeleton of a strategic plan. And then here, where the difference being in a strategic plan, at least the ones that I've worked on, you're kind of working backwards, and then you end up with a full list of tasks and activities that you would need to implement in order to implement that strategic plan. So at the end, at the bottom, or if you started on the left with your big goals, moving to the right, you would end up with a whole work breakdown structure after going through that process. And here there's some similarities, is what I'm, I guess, long-windedly getting at. So that was just an observation. And the question really is, in the energy efficiency is improved line, you set targets, and then targets. So you have a step that's called current performance is assessed. And to me, that's a target-oriented activity. So in order to assess something, you need to have something to compare it to, and then some targets that you're shooting for,
right,
at least in my view. So I see the arrow dropping into operations or managed, and I'm just curious about what is it that current performance is assessed against in this diagram.
So can you rephrase that a little bit? You're asking how the current performance assessed fits in general, or?
Well, I think you need targets before you can do current performance.
Okay. Well, I'm not sure if I think of it that way, because we we're doing a lot of work right now to understand our performance, and based on that, we're setting targets. But we didn't really know where our performance was in certain areas. And I'll use an example of our water treatment plants. We're metering pumping and the overall facility now. So we really look at the facility as kind of an area we can improve. The pumping is a little more challenging to improve, but we didn't know where that was. We didn't know where the facility performance was until we kind of got that data. And now we're going to set a target as try to reduce that by 2% a year.
Okay. So yeah, it's just, again, it's semantics, and that's usually what trips me up. So I'm trying to make it familiar, and I would call that baselining. That's just in my vernacular.
Okay.
So yeah, that's all.
Okay. No, it is. I was seeing that as baselining. So we could definitely reframe this baseline performance assessed.
Yeah, cool. Sorry if that was a digression. It was just
that
was tripping me up.
No, good. Anyone else with any thoughts?
Eric, this is Scott. I think it makes a lot of sense. I think if you look up in the yellow, I don't know if David Ponder would maybe reorder some of these things in yellow, to deal with the planning part or not. I think this works, but I think you could put the planning ahead of it. Some of this as well, if ahead of the yearly performance assessment completed, for example.
Yeah, I think that probably is an area that could be improved. This is an area that for us that we don't have as much executive leadership at my organization, so I don't have these things as defined as maybe some of the other utilities do. So I know this is an area that David's looked at, so maybe that's something he could give some thought to.
Well, not to be put on the spot. I think what I'm seeing is, those things are really sort of, and I think it's both that yearly performance assessment complete and performance review complete. Those are almost things that kind of happen at the end. And so maybe it's a different tier, right? Maybe that would help you clarify that, but I'm not, because those things feed into that refresh of sort of strategic direction and leadership, commitment to that strategic direction, right?
Mm-hmm. So maybe there's multiple tiers in this level.
Yeah, or, you put that, I mean, I think you got to clarify the difference between performance review complete and yearly performance assessment. And then, either have those things to the left, all those things to the left, and then the others, the mission refresh and leadership commitment to the right. Perhaps.
Okay.
Yeah. I think what my observation is that this perfectly works the way that Eric is approaching it and has approached it, but it just could be that you could do tiers or you could move a couple of those boxes to the left.
Yeah, this is all sharpening the saw, right? I mean,
Right. And Mike,
yeah, I just staring at this. Maybe Eric just bounced back to the BPMN diagram, because the way we constructed it was to look at the goals aren't specified here. This is sort of the how you do it, but it's not declared. A goal is not declared explicitly, so you got to come up with one. So I think what we did was we looked at that leadership role and said, okay, what are they trying to achieve? And that sub goal, that first sub goal there, maybe it's mislabeled, or could be sharpened. But the sequence in which they do things are very clear from the BPMN diagram.
Yeah.
How, right? You have to have a mission and vision before you do anything, and then you have to have leadership commitment before the energy management team can get started, and then all those two roles below got to roll up their results to the top so that the leadership team can perform their leadership review. So there is an explicitly declared sequence of activities that are done, and the intent in the goal tree is to sort of show that too. So maybe it's one issue is how you define your goals. How do you label what the goals are? Sometimes it's really clear, but sometimes it's not.
This is Chella. Could you go back to the slide, one slide down? I think that what clicked for me is I was a little bit confused. Okay, performance assessment completed, and then performance review completed. So I think that what I got from that chart is that this review is happening on the leadership level. Mm-hmm. But this assessment is happening on maybe the team level. Am I correct?
Yeah, I mean, in my mind, there's a distinction between sort of a look on a periodic basis at the components of the system that you're seeking to implement and maintain, and your progress towards and your sort of adherence towards maintaining that management system. Have you done all the things that you set out to do? Are you following your documentation? Do you have all the documentation of everything that you said you were going to document? Are all your checklists up to date, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera? That's what I think of as, and bouncing back to the business process model might help here. Conduct energy management system audit, right? That is this sort of the team, the staff supporting the management system saying, have we done everything that we were supposed to be doing, right? That we set out to do at the beginning of the year, right? Not in terms of not in terms of accomplishment, but are the functional, are the components to the system in place? Did we follow our data management plan? Did we perform audits on a quarterly basis like we said we were going to do, right? It's really more an assessment of the system, the management system, than it is assessment of energy performance, right? Yep. And I think this leadership review piece is more of taking the results, not just of the management system audit, but maybe it is taking the results of sort of your measure and manage cycle as well, and sort of saying, not only are the system pieces in place that you said that are there, but are you achieving outcomes, right? That's what that leadership review is. And then leadership review is also saying, is there something strategically different for us that we have to think about, right? All of the sudden inflation is super high and we're under pressure to keep our rates low, or so we're prepared to invest more in energy efficiency, or maybe we're prepared to invest less in whatever the thing is, whatever the kind of the strategic issue is, in order to kind of like reframe maybe your priorities as around energy management. I'm complete.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, one thing that's great feedback, David, because one thing that's missing from this model is any specification of where these results go or where the data come from. So probably, to link those two, conduct energy management system audit and measure and analyze, there should clearly the audit, I'm guessing, it's clear, would benefit from having all of that information. So there's probably some storage location that's common to those two tasks that needs to be specified, as well as in other places where an appropriate system is and the data that's stored in it needs to be specified. So we could probably have a conversation about how to add those, and that might make the data transform more clear.
So Mike, the two blue boxes on the right, could be linked and go up to perform leadership review. And then
that's right.
There could be
right,
an arrow that
goes
to it, right? Down to implement corrective and preventive actions. It could come not only from the team, but from leadership as well.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that too. Yep.
Yeah, that's a great observation and comment. We don't really have this data moving up, and that has to probably an annual basis as well, have some sort of annual performance report.
Right. Yeah, we're missing data flow entirely, almost entirely in this diagram.
Eric, you just said something. It's almost like a state of energy report or something.
Yeah.
That could in itself produce some actions as well. The improvements that are identified.
And I was wondering if there would be additional level of detail on the sub-processes.
Yeah.
Do you mind if I share just an example I pulled up?
No.
To explain what I mean. This is just a process model that we did for at the water district where I was working on the revenue meters. So this was, you know, how they were doing billing, where they also kind of associated the systems that are used. Sometimes they would have a person, but you know, then identify you know, where the data is located, that or what systems are used. So is this something that you would envision, or for example, you know, what the data is getting passed? And I'm not saying this is perfect, but would this be helpful to add as well, in addition to the data, that to kind of indicate the kind of systems that are being used, just to get the sense of if you're drawing from, you know, how many different systems are you drawing for? Does that make sense to you, Eric?
Yeah, this is something I wanted to do when I fleshed out some of those sub processes.
Oh, no, the sub process. Okay.
Yeah, really identify where I'm managing a lot of data, so it's like, where is it coming from? How is it being processed? Things like that. I've built, but I haven't documented as well as I should have. So this is definitely something that I wanted to get into my BPMNs in the future.
Yeah, that'd be great. And, you know, I think we're making a lot of progress. This is like the most recent initiatives, you know, some like CIP and asset management, they've been at it for 4 years. So they've been able to, and you do have a day job as well. But, what may not be a bad idea is when attaching, you know, some artifacts that are generated by the activity, to then also, you know, we can post an example. So it would be very helpful for a person to say, what is whatever, you know, risk matrix, what does one look like? And then if you attach it to the diagram and then provide a link to it, that would be, I think, really helpful as documentation. Just a little note I was gonna, just something I was gonna mention.
Hey, Cello, maybe
Yes.
this constitutes piling on, Eric, but we also have the business process and technology assessment, maturity assessment as well. And Eric has brought up, well, yeah, I'd like to get to this and I'd like to get to that, but on the documentation side, you know, dealing with the context in terms of looking at a gap analysis, so to speak, you could actually do the business process and technology assessment, and you would identify, you know, kind of, here are the improvements that you want to make. Just a comment, but that we haven't quite got to that yet with this team, but that's a useful thing to do as well.
Yeah, well, the way we started, I don't want to get off this topic too quickly. I want to make sure that we have a good discussion, because this was really good stuff that Eric and Mike did. So I want to see if there are other questions or thoughts that we should go through before we move on. I think we somehow lost Mia. She logged in twice and then kind of disappeared. Maybe she was having some connectivity problems. I don't know. So do you would you like? Oops. Oh yeah, thank you. Eric.
Yeah, I just threw that back up. Yeah, I don't think we need to spend the whole meeting on this. I do want Josh to have an opportunity to talk about
Yeah.
what they've worked on, and I think we've gotten some feedback which will allow Mike and I to make some refinements to this, and we do have other things to work on. So but if anybody else has any other comments or suggestions for where we are with this BPN and you know, thoughts about our alignment to a goal tree, I'd just give it a last call. Okay, well, we can revisit this. I appreciate the feedback. I think we definitely have a couple things that can be improved. So with that, I'll let Josh kind of give an update. I think he had a meeting. I'll let him describe it so that I don't mess everything up. They talked about their modeling, so take it away, Josh.
Yeah, I think more accurately, I was invited to a meeting that Mia set up, where Mia brought in kind of our resident pro at just doing strategic mapping, you know, just sort of thought bubbling, and her name's Gina Shepard, and she did all the whiteboard work. So this is, I mean, we had that meeting yesterday. I think it started at 2 and ended at 4, and then we all took the rest of the day off. So what I have to share with you is fresh off the presses. It's not, there is absolutely nothing between what I'm going to show you and no editing, no, it's just the raw work product. It's basically a whiteboard photo. So I will share screen and bring that up here. So, and it's very hard to read, and I apologize for that. I was hoping to get maybe, let's see if I can move it. So basically, we, you know, we had to go through a little bit of soul searching, even in terms of, and that was throughout the process. I mean, I think we have a pretty well-defined process. However, it's really not an energy management structure. It's one of the sub boxes. We don't, we're, you know, we are, our aspiration is to grow this into an energy management program, but we have a lot of work to do. So we started by just mapping our currently what we do, which is Energy Trust of Oregon is our funding partner, and they pay us to do, you know, to do improvements. They rebate some of the costs to us for energy usage reduction, you know, energy efficiency projects. So the program is really very highly influenced by their kind of process, and we have a team. I'm not sure I can actually read some of these boxes. I'm just going to kind of talk over the boxes because we really do need to get this into a
hey Josh,
yeah,
I just want to say I'm here too, so if you need any clarification,
absolutely. Yeah, thanks for mentioning that. I would have droned on forever. Yeah, go ahead, Brittany. You know, I think Brittany can probably interpret this a little bit better than me, so I'm going to just turn it right over to Brittany, and just start on the left and move to the right. And
yeah, definitely. Yeah, so like Josh said, this is really more kind of driven with our Energy Trust of Oregon team, and which is really kind of heavily based on these treasure hunts that we do. So starting on the left, you know, our kind of, I guess, goal or starting point would be find energy savings project. So then we do our treasure hunt, and the treasure hunt is involved, and kind of there's a list below that. But that's, you know, our operators, our energy team, the millwrights. We might have we don't really have our facilities team and our process control team join us, but they can. And then we typically just kind of pick a process area, and we'll usually kind of go with the flow. So we'll start at headworks and then kind of go to the dry weathers. But we'll just pick a day and, spend 3 hours walking around and then looking for those potential energy savings. So then in the next box, basically then that's us writing down the potential opportunity, and usually our Energy Trust representative captures those opportunities. And then we'll come back to our opportunity register and jot those suggestions down. And in the opportunity register, I'm not sure how many other people use one, but basically then you just kind of give a description to the project, estimated savings, who submitted it, and just kind of some basic information. But then we'll sometimes need to do a little bit more investigation to really determine if it's a feasible project. So that next kind of big box is our biweekly energy meeting. So the energy team comes together and we'll discuss the new items that were brought to the opportunity register. And then we try to classify them into 4 different categories. The first one, gems, being, well, let me start. The first one would be quick wins, basically something we can quickly do, wouldn't require a lot of money and wouldn't really require a lot of effort. Gems being, it might take a little bit more effort, but the savings would be great and it would be a huge win. And then going up is next our kind of CIP strategy. So then, it costs a little bit more money and even a little bit more strategy. And then we would have to kick it over to our engineering team. And then the final category is something that we just cannot do, whether that's, based on operations. And if we did that, it would affect the process, or it's just, too much outside of the scope of what we could feasibly accomplish. So there's kind of this kind of feedback decision tree kind of there for us to look at, do we have the resources available? Because a lot of the, some of the things we'll run into and where we're hoping to get to is getting some of the buy-in from some of our leadership, and then having this be a priority for them. So we'll present the project, but they've got other projects going on. So this kind of falls to the bottom of their list. So again, kind of resources, timing, all of those kinds of things are considered to help with the prioritization of the project. And then we go to implementation. And again, it's kind of based on how difficult or how much money would be needed to accomplish that project. So our quick wins could be something in-house. The gem we might do through our what we call our R&M shell, just like a repair, rehab, maintenance, and then going up to CIP. And then once we've implemented it, if we have data available, usually our Energy Trust team will have a data request. So if we change or turn down the fans, or we change the operation a little, we'll try to get them some data from before and after the implementation, so they can calculate and measure that return on investment. And then also once we've reported, we're working to have that kind of communication feedback loop to the person that initially submitted the project. So that way, we want to make sure that our staff sees that we're doing the work. So that way we can, keep that communication with them. And then once we report, then we kind of send it off to Energy Trust of Oregon, and they'll kind of put this into their plan. And every year they give us a yearly report kind of on what we've accomplished and kind of how the program's doing. So that project will then kind of go into that final report. And then based on the project, they'll give us money, which is what we're excited about. So, yeah. And then one thing we want to try to incorporate into here is also celebrating the project, just to also kind of gain that awareness and, you know, get all the staff, you know, excited about the work that we're doing. So we're hoping to then, you know, whether it's like a pizza party or something, just something to kind of recognize everyone who is involved with the project. And then I guess just kind of on the far left, there's a bunch of kind of words scribbled on that line. And that was some of the things that Gina tried to capture, like the some of the issues or kind of things that are kind of getting in the way of us trying to accomplish some of these projects, and some of the things we've been struggling with. And so those are, yeah, so we've got, yeah, like I said, the resources. There's really no funding mechanism for the energy team, so we're really kind of trying to pull money from other groups, and trying to convince them that our project is more important. And it can also
Yes.
be.
I was going to say we are asking our operations and maintenance teams to take a risk on a process suggestion or dialing something down, and then we're charging their budgets to do the improvement. So there's no, you know, so there, you know, that incentive, that's a backwards incentive system that doesn't really support, you know,
Right.
making these changes.
Yeah,
Go
and
ahead.
one thing we mentioned too is they're like, okay, so once you submit the project, who kind of becomes the leader of that project? And is it the one who submits it? And like, kind of yes, but we also don't want to have our staff be like, oh, you found this project, now you get more work, and you have no money, so you have to figure this out. So trying to figure out a way to, you know, have those good incentives, but also have people be excited to do the work.
And that one I think is just, it's a consequence of not having a you know, a management or executive leadership role. I mean, there really isn't any role for leadership in this whole thing. So that's part of why that construct exists, and you know why it's such a barrier.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's not really, you know, like I said, the sort of incentive signals are not correct, and you know, accountability, there's no pattern of accountability that's established from, you know, a goal setting that occurs at the executive level or at the management level to drive things forward. But
and then I saw David's question in the chat, asking like how we determine the subject of the treasure hunt. And they have been doing this for a couple years now. So we have gone to a couple process areas we've come back to. And typically from what I hear is it's just kind of based on if we've had a lot of staff mention that this certain process area could have a lot of potential for energy savings. And I think we do look at the, you know, which ones have that higher energy use, but I think we've also tried to kind of spread it evenly throughout the plant. Yeah.
And then like for lighting projects, I mean, we still have some areas that we can work on there. This is my question to you, Brittany, which is, have we exhausted that? Because I think, you know, what we've heard from other agencies is, yeah, and from some of the funding partners, and actually it was the Oregon State University program manager who mentioned that the early lighting projects that, you know, they're really all that's low hung fruit. It's all been kind of done. So now we're going into a little bit
Right.
more. Yeah. So at our plant, have we exhausted those lighting projects yet?
To my knowledge, I don't know. I would assume that there's maybe there's still some areas that we could get to. That'd probably be a Leo question. He would know more.
Yeah.
But yeah, I definitely think that we have kind of exhausted a lot of those low hung fruit, and so now we're kind of looking for more.
Kind of
I guess.
meteor return.
Yeah.
Projects.
Yeah, then and Eric, with your question for how often, we usually try to do them usually like every 10 to 12 weeks. Yeah.
And so this is going to be, you know, this is our, so, and Brittany, you, you also can speak to this, but we are working on a schedule to, you know, this one workshop was really step one. And then we're going to, you know, use this as a jumping off point to start to address some of those barriers and look at some of the issues that were revealed and really expand and you know you know, set up a you know get the ball going in the direction that we want it to be going. So what were some of those meetings that you rattled off?
Yeah, so we so our next meeting, we would probably want to look at kind of our future / vision business process model. So like we mentioned, this is just kind of what we're doing right now. But again, we want to, you know, be a little more strategic and using the data that we have and, you know, kind of reporting on, you know, like a monthly or yearly interval. And rather than it being just this kind of ad hoc project. And ideally, then maybe that information that we're gathering would then kind of trigger a treasure hunt. So we could say, oh, we're seeing, you know, this process area is starting, you know, historically it would use this much energy, but for some reason it's starting to use more. Maybe we should go out and see, you know, what's going on. So yeah, one of our next meetings will definitely kind of look at that kind of future holistic business process model. And then we're also going to have a workshop to look at our existing power meters. And so we've got a lot of power meters that are out there, but they have to be manually read. And they used to just go and look at the reading and then track that into a spreadsheet. But since the pandemic, they have not been doing that. So we wanted to kind of regroup and see, you know, which power meters do we have available? Which ones could we possibly get automated and into like our SCADA system? And then, you know, are there areas that, you know, maybe we do just need to continue doing this manual data capture until we can get it digitized? But
yeah, so what I heard in that first meeting was let's now pivot to the holistic approach to, you know, management with a capital M, you know, program. So that would be, you know, this if we were you know, truly able to make this an organization-wide valued program, what would that program look like, and who would be involved? And so
yeah, because some of the things we talked about too is also like how this could influence, you know, our design and how there's not really an energy lens when they go through design. And I did hear, and I don't know if this is used everywhere, but I heard of like a 9-point scale that they use for optimization, and energy was number 9 on that scale. So yeah, there's definitely other, and like we've said in the past, how this has kind of been a grassroots effort from just our work group. So we kind of need to start tapping into our engineering services group and just a lot wider audience.
I had a question about your about the program with the Energy Trust of Oregon. Do they incentivize or do they pay you for just doing this process, or is it only after you complete projects?
I think it's based on the project. Yeah, so we'll get the incentive from the savings we get on, or the calculated savings from that project.
Okay. Okay, yeah, that's how it works for us too. But I didn't know if maybe they were incentivizing you guys even, performing the treasure hunts and things like that.
Oh, I wish.
No.
That's what I did.
They do have like a renewable program too. That's it's a different program at Energy Trust with different people, so they can fund like renewable energy projects up to a percent. I think it's 100% of the up to 100% within limits. Cash, there is a cost limit, but 100% of that aftermarket value. So that's the value of the project on a 20-year life cycle. I forget how they calculate it, but it's a 20-year life cycle minus all the utility costs. So, so there's that.
Well, I think that was really fantastic information that you guys showed, and I do think the treasure hunt thing is interesting because I haven't seen a lot of firm documentation of what to look for in our industry. I hear go look for treasure hunts, look for opportunities, but I do think we could set up some almost like a checklist of different areas or different things that would be good to focus on for water and wastewater.
So on that checklist conversation, Energy Trust, if you go to their webpage and you dig around a bit, you can find a wastewater energy efficiency checklist. It's just not very good in my impression. It needs to be updated or it needs to be improved. And then the Oregon State Energy Efficiency Program, they have developed, apparently, I found out yesterday that they have developed a similar checklist, and I'm for wastewater. So I'm curious, there's probably a lot of these floating around out there. And rather than reinventing the wheel, I agree. And having such a checklist, because that makes it more accessible to that can be just posted on the website, for example, or linked to the website, then the access to that, at a basic level, any wastewater utility, no matter how big or small, can start to take some strides down this path without necessarily being a big utility with a larger budget. So smaller rural communities might see value in that.
And I was at a conference last September for the Pacific Northwest Clean Water Association, and I got a little booklet, and I'm wondering if maybe they have this online, but Idaho Power had something, it's called Eliminating Energy Waste from Wastewater. And they have like kind of sections on how to do it in the aeration system, and looking at your pumping and motor systems, and looking at digestion. So I can also try to see because they kind of mentioned some things just to kind of look for, like clean aeration basin diffusers, fix piping leaks, and just kind of simple things to kind of look for. But yeah, I think It's like there's some out there, but it's kind of, yeah.
So,
Yeah, but yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, if I can jump in, I put a couple of links to resources in the chat that I found interesting. They tend to be fairly high level, like you know, but might spur some ideas. I think what we really might want to think about is mining some, and there are other resources out there, and I've started kind of to collect this somewhere. This best practice checklist, right? Their DOE has some for pump motor systems or fan motor systems. So I think the content is out there, but it's about cobbling it all together in one place. I have a spreadsheet that I've been trying to kind of like from all of these resources kind of dumping stuff into, but I haven't had a chance to look at it in a while, and I haven't deduplicated kind of multiple entries or really gotten to the point of having it well organized. But I agree, having some sort of checklist is good, but it's got they're like two different levels, right? There's the higher level, what kind of in general might you do, like from a controls perspective, or putting in VFDs, like, but then there's the more of the operational checklist, I think, that it needs to be better developed, the more detailed checklist. I'll try and find the other stuff I've started to cobble together and put a link to that in the chat, and people can do with it what they will.
Yeah, I think that all of those approaches have value. It just depends on what folks are looking for.
Yeah.
Including, what I was talking about earlier, which is really just it's just several page long, something very, very checklisty, as Brittany was describing the aeration system, it's like, that's it. It's got the aeration system is a head category. Then underneath that, a bunch of bullet points about what to check. And it's really about diffusers and piping and leak detection, and then it's your utility, your plant utilities and your process air, and it goes through each one of those systems with a little checklist box of all the things that you might want to check. And then I see the links that you put in there, David. Those are helpful, and you too, Brittany. Awesome.
No, those are really good resources. So I think we're out of time. Great discussion today. I think we can touch base in between the next meeting. Oh, James, I see your hand up.
I was just going to ask Josh, were you going to, are you able to share the checklist that you're talking about as well?
The Energy Trust one, I can try to find it and put it in the chat. I just think it needs to be updated, and it could be a little bit more, I think a little bit more comprehensive perhaps. But if that's what you're referring to. And then I chair an energy committee for the Oregon Association of Clean Water Agencies. And we've been trying to work with ETO to update that checklist and to get it, in a little bit better shape. But we've run into silly reasons why we can't seem to do that. It's been an ongoing issue, mostly just finding the time and the ETO staff that can help with that.
Yeah, because
go ahead.
I was just going to say that this is something very easy for me to disseminate to all of our facilities. So between the Idaho Power list and then whatever lists you have or anyone else has, my plan would be to kind of go through it and, like you were saying, eliminate any duplicates or, you know, kind of make a consolidated list that I would pass along to everyone. And once I do that, I'd be happy to share my consolidated list with the group.
Yeah, yeah, and oh, Cello, you're muted, buddy.
Sorry, I was muted. If whatever you have, you can email to me, or I can send you a link to a folder that where people can share these types of artifacts. So everybody puts things into the same box and can get things from the same box to make it easier instead of emailing things back and forth. And that way, you know, whoever from the team wants to have access can have access. So. Anyway, I'll set something like that.
That makes sense. That'd be great. And like I said, I mean, I'm volunteering. I can go in there and do the process of trying to consolidate and remove duplicates and then put in my consolidated list once I have it completed. That's something I'd be doing that anyways, because I think that this is a very easy thing for me to pass along within the organization.
That'd be great.
Yeah, that sounds great.
Okay.
Okay, so we're a little bit over our time, Eric. Let me see. Is there anything that we should record that people still want to say before I stop recording? Okay, now it's stopped.